This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day, hope you're well. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this chat featuring the great Miller Petrozza from Kreator. Always a joy to catch up with Miller, and this conversation is evidence of that. We cover a whole heap of ground, but most importantly, the catalyst for the chat, which is due to the launch of a new album from Kreator, Hate Über Alles. It will see light of day on the 10th of June, Friday the 10th of June 2022 via Nuclear Blast. It's another cracking affair from these guys. In my opinion, they do not know how to release a bad album. It's just all there once again if you love violent thrash metal. So before we get to the chat, if you're listening via the podcast apps, we're going to hear a tune. This one is called Midnight Sun. Of course, it is taken from the new album from Kreator. Unfortunately, I can't play music if you tuned in via YouTube, so we'll cut to the chat right now. But again, for all of you on the podcast apps, let's hear Midnight Sun. Let's do it. Miller, how are you?
How are you, man?
Good, mate. Good, mate. Is it a good time to chat?
Absolutely.
No worries, mate. Yeah, I can see now the last time we spoke was about 5 years ago or so. So plenty happened between that particular chat in 2017 and I think it was on the eve of your Australian tour, if I'm not mistaken. And now, mate, so how have things been, all things considered?
I think it's been great. Have been great. I mean, we've toured the world. I think twice with the last album. Then we took a year off, and then the pandemic hit. So we had almost 2 years without concerts. But we worked on a new album.
Yep.
And which was is coming out on the 10th.
10th, is it? Yeah. I've had it for a couple of weeks, I must say. It's a cracking affair. I don't think you guys know how to release a bad album at this point in time, though, because it is your 15th. and I love that you did throw a curveball at the beginning. I wasn't sure what was going on, but Sergio Corbucci, I think his name is, the Spaghetti Western Innovator. You did a tribute to him, a bit like Faith No More did with Midnight Cowboy. Bit of an not it's the same, but it sort of reminded me of it was in the similar vibe in that it was, it was a curveball. It was something that I wasn't expecting. But then the album ends on a cut that you wrote with Frederick, your new bassist. And I've had a chat with Frederick Leclerc. He's a killer guitarist, but now he plays bass with you guys. So, and in between those two, the book ends, if you like. There are 9 cuts of violence and shrapnel. So fans just love you for that. But mate, look, I've read your bio. It states that the album was basically finished. It was finished prior to COVID. So do you feel a sense of relief or excitement that fans can finally hear it?
Absolutely. I mean, if you were sitting on it's not that we were sitting on the music for a year or so. It was more that we were like ready to go. And then the second lockdown came here in Europe. And we figured it was better to release an album when we can go on tour and play the music live for our fans. So we've taken the time until I think we went into the studio in September, October 2021, and did the album then. We did a couple of final tweaks since the album was kind of ready in 2020 always in the end. But it was good to have that time because that way I figured I found the new the title track. I found some stuff that I think is essential for the album. Final tweaks, but very important ones.
Yeah. So you evidently did decide to review things through the COVID period, but was it one of those situations? Was it because you had the time on your hands that you were able to do that, or did you genuinely feel like as though the album needed to have a bit more of a completed feel, the one that you'd actually finished prior to COVID?
The one that we finished, we finished the demos. So there's always like 3 parts of the process. It's like I have the idea, then I do a demo for the band, then we start working as a band. So the state was when we were finishing in 2020, it was like, okay, we're ready to go into the studio, but there's always things happening in the studio. And it's never finished until the last day, of the recordings in the actual studio. So having that time was a luxury, but it was definitely probably I would have gotten some of the inspiration if we would have gone into the studio in the end of 2020. I probably would have gotten the inspiration there already, but I don't know that. So I had that time. I had all this time for the album, so it was good. It was a good thing. It wasn't anything that I could complain about, but it was just not necessary. You know what I mean? Because the COVID thing was totally unnecessary anyway. For a lot of musicians, we were all put on hold, and we used the time. We used the time, absolutely.
Yeah, this album though. Now I've only had it a couple of weeks, so I'm not one for grand statements about these things, but if there's been a better solo than the one in Killer of Jesus, the one that starts around the 2-minute 50 mark on an album from the group, tell me which one you think it is. So was that your solo there or Sammy's? Because that's just outstanding.
Oh, that's a good question. It's either mine or Sammy's. we took also, having all this time listening to the songs. We had so much that we could like pick from, and so much that we could work on, and to make sure that it's really killer. And it's probably if it's killer solo, it might be Sammy's.
Oh, it's a gnarly solo. It's it's something that I haven't quite heard from you guys before. Actually, it's kind of virtuosic. And it's you guys. Normally, it's the violence. When I think of Creator, it's like Slayer. It's more about the violence and the aggression. But you've got a solo on there that I think the great Ralph Santola might be proud to call one of his own.
Oh yeah, that's a compliment. Thank you. Sammy is the one. I'm mostly when I write solos, I'm very intuitive. I'm mostly like, okay, let me try something here. There's a spot like of 30 seconds or something, and I try something, and then we pick the best parts and make it a solo. But Sammy, he writes the solo parts. He writes his. I give him the chords, and he comes up with something spectacular. So he's one that kind of creates a song within a song.
Yeah, definitely. Great point there. Yeah, great way to summarize it. Song within a song. Now on that note, talking about the songs themselves, Midnight Sun, another curveball. I think this is the first time you've worked with a female vocalist. Correct me if I'm wrong, but how did you meet Sophia Portnett?
Sophia's a good friend of mine, and I've known her from. I've been a fan of her album. Fire Guys, which came out during the pandemic. It's a very dark album, very very gloomy, and I really really like her voice. And for some reason we got in touch over Instagram or something, and we talked a little bit, and she was like, okay, let's do something together. And then we got together, and I had this song Midnight Sun, which I in my mind I wanted to have it like almost like a tribute to that movie Midsommar. And and in that movie there's this very strong female character, and she's like she's kind of like the main character in the movie. And I was visualizing like how would it be if I would work with a female artist to make the duet with me for that song, and it worked out really really well. I think Sophia's voice is very unique. It's very it's almost like it's a little spooky almost, and that's what I like. I wasn't looking for an operatic kind of, like, don't get me wrong, but nothing like Nightwish would do. We wanted to be more like very like Creator, and I think she really did that. She did a perfect job making a song with a female artist sound like a Creator song, even though there's a different person singing.
It didn't sound forced either. There's this trend for a lot of bands that try to go for the tick-all-box strategy, if you like, to try and introduce a female vocalist, and it sucks, to be honest with you. But with your one, it didn't sound forced. It sounded like as though, in a way, and here's a question for you, did you write the song with her in mind or with a female vocalist in mind?
I had a demo with me singing a whole bit, but there was something missing. There was something missing in the chorus. There was something missing in the pre-chorus, and she came up with some nice arrangements around the pre-chorus and the chorus, and it was the icing on the cake, so to speak. I didn't write the album, the song with the female vocalist in mind, no. But when me and Sophia got together, I had the idea of that could be the song where the Midnight Sun could be a cool art feature for a female artist, and then things just fell together very naturally.
Agreed. And have you heard what Tom did with Triptychon and the Metropole Orchestra? It's orchestra, I know, but it's given its I think it's Dutch, isn't it? The Metropole Orchestra. But did you watch that video, or have you heard that album, the Requiem album?
I watched some of the video, and I thought this is like, to me it felt like this is like this should have been done in the 80s. You know, this is so amazing. And I felt like this is really cool because I thought that that's what Celtic Frost, I mean, Tom Triptychon, Celtic Frost, what they stood for. And this is like, it was a very arty piece of music that he created there with the orchestra. So it was amazing. I really love that performance.
Yeah, my point around that would be I agree with you totally. And I think what made that performance so special is Safa Haraji. I actually spoke to her. She doesn't do a lot of interviews. We had when I say spoke to her, we had an email back and forth, and she answered some questions over email. But I think you guys, so if Tom Celtic Frost, same thing. I reckon you guys are at the level where you could do that. You certainly got enough killer cuts within the catalogue to put together something that's as meaningful as that. So could you envision yourselves, say, working with a really good orchestra like the Metropole Orchestra and doing the Roadburn Festival? Can you see yourself potentially doing that in the future?
That's a good idea. I've never thought about it. But yeah, I can see myself doing that.
I'd love it, mate. Yeah. Well, Tom Prue, because
you'll be.
You go, sorry.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's a great inspiration. I mean, that's a great idea. Like I said, I've never had the time. I've never had the vision, but the more I think about it, I mean, of course, I've we work with the Flesh God Apocalypse guys for a couple of songs on this album also.
I didn't know that.
I already like. I can kind of hear in my head, in my mind, that an orchestral version of some of the Creator songs would be a cool idea, but it needs to be done right. So, but yeah, that's like, it seems to be like the perfect people to work with if we do this.
Yeah, I thought Rage did a great job. Blind Guardian knocked it out of the park, but I thought Metallica killed it for so many because, look, I love Michael Kamen. Michael Kamen's now long gone, but those two together just sucked. Sorry, my opinion, of course, but you listen to it and you think it's like as if it's a train wreck that's been brought to life with an orchestra, and none of it made sense. Like the thing that should not be. These are classic songs in their own right, but maybe it's because they're not European and they're not steeped in that tradition like you are, that they thought they could just sort of blend these two together and voila, here you go. It doesn't work like that. We know that.
I felt the same way, and that's why I only listened to that album once. I didn't really listen to it, but I heard it somewhere, and I felt the same way. I thought it didn't really fit. But like you said, I mean, if you have songs that are so classic, you need somebody that kind of gets a feel for it. To me, music is all about spiritual. And it's a spiritual experience, and it's very emotional, and you need to find. It's not just like, okay, I feel this and you feel that, and it will match. It doesn't work like that. You need to be able to really, really connect. And if it's not right, it's not right. People hear that. You can just hear right away.
Well, I think your fans will be thrilled to hear that because. You can actually ruin songs, to be honest with you, and obviously with your perspective on those things there, you're in the band's music is in safe hands, which is lovely to hear. And again, talking about safe hands, I think Arthur Risks, I understand you worked with him on the album. Now, he seems to understand how to get the best from the group from a sound perspective. You've never sounded better than what you do on this album here, I've got to say. Hey Duberolas, it's all there. So. What was it about Arthur's approach what is it about his approach that really works for you guys?
Arthur, first and foremost, is a total metalhead, and he's very much a person that comes into the picture very respectful, he knows his metal, he knows the history of the band, he's known Creator in and out, and when I got together with him, it was more like we didn't talk about equipment, we didn't talk about anything like sound wise. We talked about like how does this record, how we want this record to feel, what we want people to feel if they hear the record. And we both agreed that we want to capture like the essence of Creator, more the core, that means that we were really focusing in on the feel more than on the technique, which resulted in a very relaxed atmosphere at the studio. We weren't really. It never felt like working, if you know what I mean. We were working very disciplined, but for example, I wasn't going in the studio from, say, when we worked with Jens, I was me in the studio from 8 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. With Arthur, it was more random. It's like, yeah, you want to join us tomorrow at 12? Then he would work with the other guys, and I would come in and work for 3-4 hours, get the best takes, and then leave. So I was very loose, and I think you can hear that on the record. He's really Arthur's thing is more like the vibe. It's more the vibe than the technique and the perfection. So that's why I think he was absolutely the right person for Hate Violence.
I know Suicide Silence pissed a lot of people off when they worked with Ross Robinson in 2017 on their self-titled album, and they quickly went back to creating more of a death metal style album, the next one, the follow-up. But have you ever been hit up by a left field producer like a Ross Robinson saying, hey, man, I'm a big fan, how about we work together?
I've known Ross since his old band Murder Car, and I never thought about working with him for some reason. I respect him as a producer, but it never came to my mind. I think it's more. How do I put this? I love his work, but I think he probably wouldn't be the right person for Creator. But maybe he would be. I just haven't tried yet. But we're just happy that we found Arthur, because Arthur is like, he's amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just works for you guys. Yeah. I just thought a group with a tremendous legacy like what you've got, surely to goodness you get some, even just some pop producers, this sort of thing, to sort of test the waters and reach out to you and say, hey, why don't we just see how it goes for a week in a studio and see if something good comes from it? Oh,
that's what we did in Germany for the demos. I mean, I worked with Markus Ganter, who is a big pop producer here in Germany. I worked with him on some of the songs. On the 666 single that we put out before the pandemic hit, Markus Ganter worked with me on the song. We did it together with Andy Sneap. But this was very inspiring because it's a different, he has a different kind of like, he's also a metalhead, but he doesn't produce like a metal producer. So it's a new energy that we were experiencing, and a new like source of inspiration. And the original plan was to work with Markus and Arthur, but then Markus was busy, and we were just working with Arthur, which was also amazing, you know. So both amazing. But I know exactly what you mean. I mean, pop producers is always like almost in metal. If you talk about pop producers, some people would go like, this is almost like a dirty word, you know. But it's not. It's like these people, like especially Markus Ganter. He's a fan of music, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows how to get the best out of a band like Creator. In the end of the day, it's all music, and it's all about the song, you know. And these people know, they focus on the song, they focus on the core of the song, which I think is the most important thing.
Agreed. Yeah, I think you've always had your hand on the steering wheel in the band too, which helps. You know, you haven't had an addiction issue or any of this sort of shit that some other people have had, and you can hear that through some of the not just the addiction thing, but you can hear it when the leader of a band, the band leader, doesn't have their hands on the steering wheel when a release comes out, because it sounds patchy. Like, I'll mention it. Look at Ozzy these days. I mean, he's getting producers to do all of his work, and he hasn't had an Ozzy album arguably since Osmosis in 1995, and people would even go back to when he last worked with Bob Daisley, which was No More Tears in 1991. But I think the fans are grateful, mate, that you've always been the man of the moment with the band on that point.
But I have to disagree with you. The last Ozzy album, he worked with this guy. What's his name? He worked with a pop producer. He worked with somebody that did like Lana Del Rey.
Machine Gun Kelly or something like that, wasn't it? Or something? It was.
Yeah. No, not Machine Gun Kelly. It was. I forgot the name of the guy, but he's a great producer. And he got the guy. I think he got the drummer from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I thought the album was good. What was
Andrew Watt. Andrew Watt was the producer.
Andrew Watt. Yeah. I thought that was good. See, and that's what my point is. It's like he tried to work with a producer that's not necessarily a metal producer, and I think that's sometimes a good thing. That's sometimes a good thing. Get somebody with a different perspective, and you might be right that Ozzy's not writing his songs anymore, but that's he's singing, and it's when he puts his voice on something, it sounds like Ozzy.
Yeah, it does. I'm an old fan, you see, and I can't stand the way he throws like The Ultimate Sin under the bus, and I mean all those albums with that Bob Daisley helped him write, they're the classic to me. It sort of isn't that afterwards, but that's just me being an old fella, listening to this stuff. Hey, I always go, a man of your intellect, I like to go and ask questions a bit further afield outside of music. In your view, is Olaf Scholz, is he the man of the moment for Germany?
Oh no, he's the lesser of all evils. But I have to admit, I mean, the personality is lacking with this guy. I'm just like, okay, that's a guy from this Social Democrat Party, which I thought was when I was growing up, like when I was young, the Social Democrats were like the ones that anyone could trust. You had the Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats, and the Christian ones were the bad ones, the bad guys, and the Social Democrats were the good guys. But nowadays it's not that easy. And Olaf Scholz, I don't know. I think he's lacking the personality that Angela Merkel had. Even though I'm not a fan of a party, I'm not a fan of CDU, But she was a character. She was very straightforward, and even though she was not the most emotional person, she had more personality.
Yeah, she was a decisive leader. You just had to agree with the decisions that she was making, and unfortunately, I think some of the decisions that she made are going to have a lasting legacy, potentially to the detriment of the average German.
Yeah, like I said, it's always like you always choose the lesser of all evils. It's not like politics, and to me, it's all politics. It's not like these. It's a tough. How do I put this? You always make a compromise, and you always have to, even if you're a politician, I don't want to be in their shoes, because I think they have to decide things that are sometimes not popular, and there are sometimes not, some people don't get why they do make these decisions, and I sometimes don't get it either, but somebody has to make those decisions, and sometimes it's like, okay, I don't get it, but whatever. And so yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to find like politicians that I could 100% trust.
Yeah.
It's just human. It's just human nature. It's once people get into a certain position, they change.
Yeah, that they do. I think, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, whatever the saying is. And we see that in Australia, America, especially in the bloody US at the moment. Those poor bastards is what they're dealing with over there. At least we're not dealing with that. Sorry to my American friends. But, mate, second last question for you is, you're obviously a lot closer to the war in Ukraine physically, geographically speaking, than what we are here in Australia. But what's the mood like in Germany? Is there a feeling that we're sliding back into hard borders and a totalitarianism, like the old Cold War situation?
Kind of, yeah. It's a catastrophe, and you're absolutely right. We're very close to the Ukraine. Actually, the first concert that we were supposed to play after the pandemic was in Kiev, and then we would have gone to Moscow and St. Petersburg. That's all like postponed, canceled, whatever. But this is not the important issue. The important issue is that there's people getting killed every day in this war now. And it's like, it already became like yesterday's news in the media, and but it's still happening, and it's still going on, and it's still a disaster. So I'm totally I'm totally, when I heard about that war, I was totally speechless. I couldn't believe that something like this is happening in Europe, and I still can't believe it. And which doesn't really mean that the wars that they were doing before that, and they were still going on in Syria and all the Middle Eastern countries, are not. I'm just as horrible, but you get a different vibe. You know, I mean, I've been on a train with refugees from Ukraine when the war started, going from Berlin to Essen. And, you know, these people had like a plastic bag with all their belongings.
Yeah, it's horrific. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's real. It's fucking real. And it's like the world is watching and there's nothing you can do. It's like, how can you stop this tyrant? You know, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert on these things, but I think on a human level, it's fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're not wrong. It's fucking awful what's going on now in Ukraine. It's been absolutely disgusting what's been going on in Yemen and Syria, and yet the media, to your point, just seem to want their fucking Twitter-style bloody... They hit the Twitter cycle, which is every 30 seconds or whatever it is, and they just move on. They're not actually focusing on. I'm a journalist, okay. I do think that we are the fourth estate as journalists. We need to be active insofar as agitating for positive and correct change in that way. And you see, even these hardcore lefties or whatever that are yelling about all sorts of identity politics in the Western countries, they couldn't give a shit about the average Yemeni and what the person in Yemen or even to a lesser extent. You know what I mean?
True.
It just sucks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I could talk about this all night, but I know you got to head off to the next one in the moment. So I'll make this my last question for you. Australia, you know we love you. You came down here before with Vader and you knocked it out of the park. When are you coming back?
Hopefully soon. Is it possible to do tours in Australia again? Like COVID?
Yeah, we're back on deck now. Yeah, thank God.
You know what? As soon as possible, we'll come back to Australia. I think we're focusing at this point. We're going to America and Europe. That these are going to be our next steps. But right after that, beginning of next year, I would reckon we will be back in Australia.
Look forward to it. Good on you, mate. It's been another outstanding conversation. Good luck with everything. I know this album's going to be a success for you because it's a killer album. Hope to see you down here soon.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother. No worries. Catch you.
You take care. Bye.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. Another conversation with Mile Petroza. It's my third or fourth with the great men, and it's always a joy. They just get better and better. The new album is outstanding too. Do check it out if you enjoy thrash metal. Now, if you like that chat, there are plenty more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. And if you like reading, I've got a book out as well. You can click on the links on the website and go to a marketplace of your choice. Download a sample. And if you do buy it, please hit me up because I want to thank you personally. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Please do stick around as I tell you a little bit more about the book.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton. gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you. Look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot. And
we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.